Hello everyone, welcome back to the Hindu Explain series. I am Kushagra Goel and I am personally overwhelmed with the responses of all the viewers of our channel who have been wishing me good for my surgery. Thank you so much for that, and rest assured now we will be on time and consistent with our series. So once again, thank you so much for your love towards the series that you have shown, and hopefully the series is helpful to you all with regards to you realizing your dream for CLAT 2021, right? So on that note, there was one particular doubt that a student had placed about regulation of NBFCs by the RBI. There is another editorial, so I will address that doubt there, alright? So let's move on with today's newspaper. So on the front page, there is a news here about Chinese using Indian roads for trespass. So this Sunday, yesterday, I had talked about the mechanism of China of trying to repopulate the area, right? This thing on the front page is exactly that. That China, for example, the article cites that the grazers in Ladakh had used the grazing grounds here and had not used it for past 2 years because of some disease that was spreading in the livestock. When they went again this year, they noticed that, see, there were Chinese people who were in that territory and were even populating it, right? So they informed the Indian armed forces and stay put there for a long time till the armed forces were there to push them back. What this proves is that two things. One, that the fear of China trying to push into the territory of India is real, and it's trying to do it through multiple mechanisms, not just militarily but through civilian population. Secondly, during the Lok Sabha debate about Indo-China border dispute, the defense minister has stated that, see, the LAC is something of a perception base, that there is no real boundary that is there on the ground, and that is exactly what is coming out here also. That, see, based on perception, whosoever can grab as much territory is what is happening. So Indian forces need to remain vigilant is what is the conclusion from this, right? No real update, but I'm just explaining the story from a follow-up yesterday, right? Then apart from that, preparations for Republic Day parade and the tractor rally that will be taking place around the outer ring road of Delhi are going ahead. So that is not of relevance for us. Here is another update which is pseudo relevant, right? What is this? This is about the Election Commission's pictorial ID cards, right? Which is the EPIC. Now, for example, if any one of you had recently registered or become an adult and registered themselves through the website, they would have got a voter ID card, right? Now, for people who already possess a voter ID card can actually also digitally download that voter ID card. That facility will be known as EPIC, alright? Secondly, another thing that is being test run is remote voting. That is, digital voting can be done in remote areas, alright? So a lot of expenditure is undertaken by the Election Commission to provide voting access to people living in remote areas. Now, to do it efficiently, there is technology that based on blockchain is what a research project of the Election Commission is trying to do. So that is something that becomes relevant, alright? Why was this relevant on this day is because 25th January is known as National Voters Day, alright? And in that light, yesterday all of these announcements were made, alright? Nothing is concrete about about the remote voting thing, but EPIC, that is electronic voter ID card that you can download, is a facility that will be available from this year onwards, alright? Moving ahead, on the national news, there is not much relevance for us, alright? So we'll move ahead. On this page again is about things that are new for this year's Republic Day parade, alright? What are the things that are new in this year's Republic Day parade? Some of them I highlighted yesterday. That is, every contingent size has been reduced from 144 to 96. The parade will only march for 3.5 kilometers. The tableaus that are always on display at the Red Fort will not be there to avoid crowding. Then another thing, that this year only 25,000 spectators will be there instead of 1.5 lakh, and for the first time the Rafale jet will be there at the Republic Day parade, alright? Moving ahead, on the editorial front, there are two editorials that require a lot of in-depth explanation. One of them is the main editorial. It is the conflict between India and US and Iran. So I'll be explaining the origin and all of that is relevant about it today. And the second one, troubled waters, that is the Pak Bay conflict. Alright, both of them I will be explaining to you. So we'll move ahead with the others. That is after the storm. So the RBI's plan to tighten security of large NBFCs is critical for financial stability. So this is the doubt that one of the viewers had about RBI trying to regulate more of the NBFCs. See, NBFCs are non-banking financial corporations, right? Their purpose is basically to extend credit and have better financial solutions for the customers. Recently, there were two kinds of crises that existed because of lack of regulation. That is, no oversight about how they are functioning. There was a big NBFC player known as IL&FS that had collapsed in the sense that it was unable to furnish its payments. It defaulted on its payment. What this led to was a entire chain reaction in the real estate sector. All right, all of the players who were reliant on the payments from IL&FS. All right. So now the plan of the RBI is to certain NBFCs, not all NBFCs, but certain NBFCs that have become huge in their size will be regulated. So this editorial tells us that, see, why is this relevant? Why is it relevant is because, see, firstly, some of the NBFCs now have their entire total amount turnover as much as the 1/4 of large banks. That is, they have become such big corporations that they need some amount of extra vigilance. All right. The reason for success of NBFCs is partly because of low regulation of these players. But as they become big, some amount of regulation is required to ensure safety and stability, is what the plan of the RBI is now. All right. So we'll have to see what finally is being done, because see, the RBI would not want to do too much too soon, is what the note of the editorial is, and at the same time it does not want to let things go haywire, because already in the banking sector we have faced three banks already in rough waters. All right. So this is a policy statement, inclination that something can be in pipeline. When that actually happens will become more relevant. What you need to know is the difference between a normal bank and an NBFC. All right. Then moving ahead, the agri credit small farmers are still outside the fence. This is an analysis of how in India, despite credit being extended to agriculture sector, the overall growth of the sector is still very low, and the analysis of why that is the case. All right. This is mostly in the sense of policy and why or how it can be improved, agricultural credit, but not real relevance from our perspective. So we'll move ahead. All right. Then on the left hand side, the starting point of self-regulation. So this is in light of recent revelation of WhatsApp chats between the BARC CEO and the editor-in-chief of Republic TV, right? So within which payments were made to the BARC to fix the ratings. Certain other controversial things also came out. The editorial says that, see, what this means is we need to have self-regulation, that viewers of a platform, for example, you all are our viewers, right? If I say something incorrect, you all can point it out, right? And then, but if there is a formal mechanism wherein one, I may not be able to spread fake news, false information to you all. So any information that I give you is open to public and you all can also scrutinize it, right? And secondly, it is based on the newspaper in the background, right? But certain news channels today can spread any amount of information. So what this editorial is saying is that viewers of a particular news channel need to be vigilant. They need to demand self-regulation. They should be the one demanding fair, unbiased journalism, is what will be the basis of avoiding such things, right? So it is highlighting how the Hindu newspaper has its own ombudsman system and why Indian government needs to have a system that is based on industry and the viewers, and not the executive that leads the self-regulation system. All right. On the left hand side, the shipping sector is at sea. So this is again analysis of the Sagarmala project and how India needs to take a lead in two things. One, ensuring facilities at its ports, and secondly, making ship owning a easier task. All right. See, 16th century, Indians were merchants. Mercantile products were the ones that led India's economy to its peak in the world GDP, that was 22 to 25% during the height of the Mughal Empire, right? Since then, as the British came and colonized us, they made us consumers and they dominated the entire trade scene. Post that also, India has not been able to regain that status, alright? But only and only when we dominate the maritime route, the trade routes, that is, Indians will be owning the ships on which the world products travel, only then Indian economy will be at the forefront of the world economy, is what the theme of the editorial is, and tells us what are the things that can the government do to fix the system. All of these policy suggestions are in light of, because the budget is just round the corner. One thing what we all need to also know is that, see, budget is something that is probably now formulated. Nothing last minute changes will happen to it. All right. But it's better for all of us to have a holistic view of things that could have been done but were not done. All right. Then on the left hand side, a big push for education. The pandemic gives us a chance to make education systems more inclusive, flexible and resilient. See, 2-3 important things are relevant from this editorial. Some facts that you need to know. 24 January was celebrated as the 3rd edition of International Day of Education by the UNGA. So what international festival was celebrated on 24 January? That was International Day of Education. The theme for 2021 for this year is recover and revitalize education for the COVID generation. That is, generation of students who have suffered because of COVID-19. So for example, most of you also who are still in school were not able to attend at least 1.5 year of schooling because of COVID-19, right? So you are also part of the COVID-19 education generation. That your education was suspended not because of any war or anything, but because of a natural calamity, that is a pandemic, right? So how do you fix education? How do you make it better is what this editorial is all about, right? So 2-3 facts that you need to know. January 24th, what was it celebrated by? Who celebrated it? That is the UNGA. And thirdly, what was the theme? That is recover and revitalize education for COVID-19 generation. All right. Then moving ahead, the data point here talks about dropout rates from different states. Certain states data is not there. This is only for primary, lower primary and upper primary. All right. So it tells us that if there is dropout rate, for example, in Northeast, in the state of Meghalaya, the dropout rate in upper primary is 76.6%. Imagine the dropout percentage by the time they reach high school or high schooling standards, right? Then moving ahead with the other national news, all right, there is one important update that, see, the current Prime Minister of Nepal has been suspended from the Nepal Communist Party, but the conflict has deepened in the sense that now that the Prime Minister has been suspended from the party, the Communist Party of Nepal has 2 factions, but both these factions are not being recognized as the official, or they will not be granted the official symbol of the Communist Party. Alright, so we'll have to see all of this. A parallel to this is, after the passing away of Jayalalitha, who was the incumbent Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, the AIDMK, that is the All India Dravid Munedra Kargam, they also had 2 factions, right? Both these factions debated on who will get the actual symbol of the Trinamool AIDMK, alright, and then both the factions finally reconciled, got together, and the official symbol of the party was granted together, right? So now if the conflict had deepened, who would have gotten the original symbol? A parallel to this is also in previous, when Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was in charge, alright, and then she split the Indian Congress into Congress R and Congress O, that is the organization, and the Congress that was known as Real Congress or Indira Congress. And the original symbol of the Congress party used to be two bullocks and a hull at the back with the farmer there. And then the new Congress symbol that you see is the hand, right? So because no one claimed the original symbol, when parties divide themselves, the claim is who gets the official symbol. This is based on registered national parties, right? So all of that is relevant. We'll have to see what is actually done here and what happens. All of these things, it's an ongoing story, so we'll keep an eye on it, right? Moving ahead, the other national news again, new talks will be resuming between India and China in background of no stable LAC or no conclusion or resolution in sight. Apart from that, multiple protests across the country took place yesterday by different farmer unions in different parts of the countries, not just by farmers from Punjab and Haryana, but this is, for example, the rally in Mumbai. Farmers marched from Nasik to Mumbai here. All right. Moving ahead, the number of shots that India has been giving to different states, the vaccination drive is ongoing. So that is something that was happening at the sides. All right. Then there is political news, and then there is from the wildlife that the number of that the Sundarbans is an area that is home to 428 species of the birds. This is something that has been stated by the Zoological Survey of India. All right. Moving ahead, in the economic and international news, again, not so much relevance for us. Updating stories, protest in Russia for Alexei Navalny's release. Then here is another news, something that we had discussed in the early January, is about freedom or referendum for Scotland. That is Scotland getting freedom from United Kingdom. So Nicola Sturgeon is a person who is a nationalist Scotland party. She wants Scotland to become free from United Kingdom. All right. Then moving ahead on the economic front, no such relevance, and similar from the sporting arena, right? So now we'll move on to the two important news here for us. On the left hand side is the editorial that is that the Pak Bay conflict is exacting a high toll and cries for early resolution. What is this Pak Bay conflict? So here is the map of India and Sri Lanka, right? And the territory that is marked here is known as the Pak Strait. It is in this region that most of the fishermen dispute happens here. Why? Is because see, country boundary extends up to 12 nautical miles from the surface region. All right. And as per 1974 and 1976 treaty between India and Sri Lanka, whatever falls in the territory of Sri Lanka, only Sri Lankan fishermen can fish there, and what falls in Indian territory, only Indian fishermen can do. But what happens is, because Indian fishermen want more fishing or want to extract maximum out of that, they sometimes cross into Sri Lankan territory, or sometimes Sri Lankan fishermen cross into Indian territory. So that is one dispute. Because they cross into each other, the navy of each side then capture these fishermen. Another problem with a fishing dispute here is that, see, Indian fishermen use something known as deep sea trawlers. What these deep sea trawlers do is that their fishing net not only captures the fishes that are there on the surface, but also scratches the surface of the sea. What this does is it affects the biological region in general. But the conflict with India and Sri Lanka is Sri Lanka wants a ban on these deep sea trawlers, but Indian fishermen say that, see, because we have invested so much, we should be given certain amount of time period before we switch to a different technology. All right. So this is a ecological conflict and a territorial conflict. So two kinds of conflicts are there. But what is happening now is that, see, there were suggestions of a joint working group between India and Sri Lanka, but that has also not led to any resolution. So the conflict is ongoing, and the human cost is that certain fishermen, either their boats are capsized and they are drowned and killed, or they are captured and stay away from their families, which also takes a human toll, right? So because of non-resolution between the two countries, it is humans are suffering in general, right? So these are two problems that exist. One is a territorial dispute, and the other is the technology with which fishing can be conducted in this region, all right? Because if the ecological area is affected, then the overall quality of fishing will also be affected, right? And that, even if the boundary is still there, even if you respect the boundary, but the overall quality of fishing will get affected. So it's a two level of conflict, one territorial, the other technological and ecological, all right? So these are the entire conflict. Then now let's move ahead with the main editorial. What is the main editorial? The main editorial is about the conflict that on Iran and the decision that Joe Biden has to take. All right, we have discussed this a number of times, but we'll do a quick revision. It is about the JCPOA. What is the JCPOA? The JCPOA is Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Who were the signatories to this? The P5 nations, that is the permanent members of the Security Council, US, Russia, China, United Kingdom and France, plus Germany and European Union along with Iran. What was this agreement? This agreement was about the capacity of how much uranium Iran can enrich and how much can it stockpile. Why is this relevant? Because this can sustain or control the level of nuclear armament that Iran can actually do. When you can control the amount of nuclear uranium you can enrich, then you can stop them from actually manufacturing nuclear weapons, all right? The second problem is a geological one, that is geographical. So Iran is a sworn enemy to the other two powers in the Middle East, that is Saudi Arabia and Israel, right? Both these two countries do not have declared nuclear weapons, and Iran is someone that wants to have nuclear weapons. This is a ongoing conflict of a geographical one since the 7th, 8th century. That is the origin of Islam, that the seat of power of the Muslim world should lie where is the original conflict, all right? But Saudi Arabia and Israel are on the sides of US. They are more closer US allies. And Iran sees itself as a great power. It's a country that is a civilization that has existed since the beginning of humanity in general. So it sees itself as a big power, right? Now, what happened was 2015 the JCPOA was signed. Joe Biden was the vice president then, right? Then after that, Donald Trump unilaterally withdrew from the JCPOA. Now, in response to that, US imposed sanctions on Iran. The Iranian economy was suffering. Iran retaliated by stockpiling more enriched uranium, and also the level at which it was enriching the uranium also increased. So the exact opposite happened of what Donald Trump thought. He thought that by imposing sanctions, he could make Iran agree to a more harsher agreement than the JCPOA, which would have favored US allies, that is Saudi Arabia and Israel, who were closer to Donald Trump personally too. But because it has backfired, that is Iran has done exactly the opposite, now there is problem for Joe Biden on two levels. One, Iran is okay with JCPOA because JCPOA only covers its nuclear side. It does not control the ballistic missiles and the overall army of Iran, right? And because if Iran returns to JCPOA, the sanctions on its economies will be lifted. That is something that Saudi Arabia and Israel do not want, right? So it's a very complex thing, that there are regional powers at play. There is problem with Iran and US also. Because US is the largest economy and has imposed sanctions, that is something that cripples the economy of a country, right? So it's an ongoing conflict. The facts that become most relevant for us about are the JCPOA, when it was signed, who are the parties to it, and what is, you have to keep this entire conflict in mind. The reason why solution to this problem is not so easy is because if US becomes closer to Iran or does something that is favorable to Iran, US allies that are Saudi Arabia and Israel would start countering back to US. So which would be not a good thing, because US, one, is not close to Iran, will never be a friend with Iran, will also lose its two friends. So that is the tightrope that now Joe Biden has to walk to finally have a resolution about the conflict with Iran, right? It's a complex one, but the most important part for you all is to understand the JCPOA, alright, and what it entails. Any doubts that you have about it, put it in the comment section and I will be very happy to address them, right? So on that note, I will end for the day. Thank you so much. I have another announcement to make. From now onwards, the notes that you see here, things that I explain in depth, are something that you can also access on our Telegram channel, the link to which will be provided in the description. Alright, so on that note, thank you so much. Once again, thank you to all the viewers who have shown all the affection towards our series, and personally to me, I am humbled and have immense gratitude for you all. Thank you so much. If you like the work that we are doing, please give this video a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, do subscribe to it. Thank you.